FSU is spiking the ball to the left and to the right on the recruiting trail. They are hot as can be. And here to talk about that, including the latest yes that Florida State got on the trail, is senior recruiting analyst for Warchant.com, Michael Langston, because maybe the good times will just keep on rolling for Florida State. Again, welcome here to Warchant TV. We're talking Florida State recruiting. Hit the like button underneath this video. Hit subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free, always here at Warchant TV. Michael, they're on fire. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I got to give you the props and the floor because I believe we did a video about a month ago in which you said, man, look, they're at 4 right now. 8 to 10 more are coming and coming soon. And here they are. And now Florida State is 12 commits strong in the class. 11 of the 12 are blue chips. Talk to me. How did Florida State catch fire like this?
Yeah, just really just putting in the work. I mean, I don't think that anything is like outside of TJ Wiley. I think every one of them is not a surprise when you think about it and you know the recruitment. I think they've just focused on stayed true to what they are, relationships, and then I think they've stayed true to what the product is. If you want to come here and I think a product it sells a lot. You know, when you have FSU coming off the seasons they're having, I think kids want to be a part of that, and I think this is kind of the time where I felt like in the summer they would make their move. Obviously, up to 12 commits. I think more are coming, and then I think they've really just executed their plan overall. I think they've nailed it, and there's a few misses in there, but overall, I think we might be circling back to some of those misses that they could possibly get later. But overall, I think they're churning about what I thought they would so far.
And that's something we discussed. We had a video, you and I, Michael, talking about linebacker recruiting, which is maybe the one blemish. But when you think about it in a positive spin, Florida State went 0 for 3 in that fateful 3-day stretch. You can find that video if you want negative. This is positive time here on Warchant TV. You can find that on the channel. We have that too. We're honest here at Warchant TV. They absorbed that 0 for 3 stretch, Michael, and they're still a top 7 class in the country with only 12 commits. I mean, most of those schools that are in the top 5 are at 17 to 22 commits. So Florida State is just landing a high quality of player consistently. And the latest of that ilk is Dalton McCutchen, wide receiver out of Texas. This guy looks to be a speedster, Michael. I mean, he's a polished route runner too, but I know that there are reports on his speed being, relative to the 100-meter dash, like okay. His football speed looks to be off the charts, Michael. They can play football in Texas, and he looks like he can really run, something that Mike Norvell values, obviously, a great deal. Talk to me about that particular recruitment and how Florida State sealed the deal to get a yes from Dalen this past weekend.
Yeah, you could see. I mean, Mike Norvell's tweets are kind of similar when a commit happens, but you could tell this one was an extra boost as far as excitement. I think you saw all capital letters yes with exclamation point. So I think this was one they put a lot of work in. I think. And I've said this to people like we never heard anything definite, but I felt like the way they FSU positioned themselves. This is a kid that's come to FSU like 2 or 3 times. It even took an official visit to FSU and made that his last official visit. And I think they did the best job recruiting him from knowing Dalton McCutchen, not Dalen, the explosive playmaker, which I'll talk about shortly, but knowing him as a person, believing in what they're doing, believing in I can trust these guys if I even wasn't playing football, and that was a big key to him being in a culture that was very comfortable. I think the offense speaks for itself. As Mike says, it's built for playmakers, but I think overall he saw the, kind of fit there, and he saw that, maybe FSU doesn't have quite somebody as explosive as Dalen that he feels like he can come in there early. He's got a phenomenal quarterback room. I think the best, FSU's had in a long time. When you think about that quarterback room of who's in there with Luke, Brock, and certainly already DJ. But I think overall, just everything checked off for Dalen, and I think the comfort. I've always said it before when I talk to Dalen. It's a different vibe when you get from him of when he's at FSU. It's a different feeling. It's hard to sometimes articulate with your words and writing, but it's just a different vibe when he's there. And so I wasn't shocked when he picked FSU, but I didn't know for sure. Everyone's like, "Did you know for sure?" It was like they didn't know. Matt Lasser did a incredible job covering it for us over there in Texas, and kind of illustrated kind of the feelings of Dalen from why he picked him. But I think it's a massive hiccup. I put it as a national type landing.
Mhm.
Not just the guy that, hey, we need this guy. He's very productive. He really helps the class. But a guy that's an explosive, game changing type of player in your class. So add Dalen was massive, and I think I didn't say this at the time, but I kind of felt like it was a must-win recruitment for FSU because of where they have been trending most of the time in that recruitment.
So we'll get back to Dalen in just a second, but here's
Yeah.
some fast facts for everybody here. Florida State, as we record, this is July the 14th, Sunday, July the 14th. Florida State 7th in the country in the On3 industry team rankings. 12 commits, 11 of which are blue chips, 1 5-star. Again, this is the industry, so it combines all the top services. And On3 in its own rankings, Florida State has 5 commits within the top 100 of
Hmm.
On3's rankings. 2 of those are at receiver, and in fact, they're both in the top 80 in C.J. Wiley and Dalton McCutchen.
Hmm.
So, Michael, I mean, they're kicking ass. There's no two ways about that. But in the
Yeah.
receiver room, I mean, you go back 2-3 weeks, you weren't sure if any yeses were coming, and maybe they'd be sitting in a position like they are with linebacker right now, where you're saying,
Hmm.
where's it going to come from? Now that they have Wiley, a yes, and they've got McCutchen, a yes. You've seen hundreds, thousands of receivers in your time as a recruiting analyst. What kind of players are these? What kind of comps can you give people who know Florida State greats or big time receivers? What do they remind you of?
Well, with CJ, you got a big target that can run. Very, very Hakeem Williams like when you watch his film. He does a lot of different things. I'm just giving somebody something that they can kind of comp that's already at FSU. I'm not saying he's that, but he's physical. Great job as far as high point the ball. He's probably more defined than Hakeem was at this stage. Even though I know Hakeem was a 5-star, this kid's like playing some of the really good talent in the state of Georgia, and his route running is where you want it, going into a senior season. So I think certainly adding him is a big time weapon. And anytime you're going against Georgia, they're elite as they come. So to land one there and get him was massive. And then I think with Dalen's is I look at this offense, and the one thing I've always signaled out is that I look for and I look for more of is separation and routes, and that's what Dalen brings you. Brings a lot of separation routes and also a very explosive special teams guy. We know how Mike is with special teams. I think he's a guy that you can use a lot on punt returns, and then certainly as a receiver, I think he does things differently from an explosive standpoint. That's just it's hard to put in the words the gaudy numbers that he puts up. He gets like big chunk big chunk yardage type of plays, big like 25, 35. He's not just getting 5, 10 yards. I mean, he's getting the 50 and 60. So he hits on a high rate as far as as far as when you're looking at just explosive plays or plays that just change the game. I think that's what Dalen does. Don't know if I can think of one that for sure that they have that is similar to him. I would say coming out of his routes reminds me of Rashad Green when I watch him.
Mm-hmm.
Really strong, smooth, gets out of it clean, great speed. But overall, just going to be a guy that you can use in a multiple ways because you can line him up at wideout or even slot and you feel good. I think probably more likely a slot, but I don't think they've had a slot guy like him in a while.
Michael, sometimes it happens. Actually, often it happens where, like, we'll get to see a kid, in Florida State's pads and helmet, and they go through practice, and we'll come out with observations, and we'll say, like, "Wow, this guy can really do this." And inevitably, you'll be like, "Yeah, I know. I've been watching in high school. I'm telling you, that's what's coming." Rashad was like that too.
Yeah.
Remember the one
Yeah.
open practice Florida State had when he was a freshman, and it's just he got faster out of his routes. So if Florida State has somebody who's technical like that, obviously it would bolster the receiver room moving forward. And now from the high school ranks, you combine that with a LaWayne McCoy,
Hmm.
Elijah Moore, and Hakeem, and you see that they've got momentum here. As for momentum for the entirety of this class, 2025 class, Florida State's at a dozen now. They're a top 10 class. Where are they going from here, and what can fans expect in the next few weeks?
Yeah, the good news is you've got your two, but you obviously got to keep them, and that's always the challenge. But assuming you keep them, I think two guys that are kind of on my radar are Malik Clark, a four-star wide receiver out of the Carolinas. South Carolina, FSU are the two teams I hear the most there. Maybe South Carolina in edge, but I think it's closer than people think. As far as after that official, we took to FSU, but also the key is like, do they take him since they're going to stop probably at 3. So they're also heavily recruiting 5-star wide receiver Dallas Wilson. He's committed to Oregon, but yeah, he's made this statement like, "Hey, I'm locked in." But I've heard through my FSU contacts that he's going to take an official to FSU. So that's still going to happen. I've heard that through several people. So I expect in the fall he will take an official to FSU. So that's the one I have circled the most. Like if I'm feeling FSU's coveting somebody, I would say Dallas would be the guy, and they might punt on the rest of the guys if they feel like that's trending in a positive direction where it can happen. And obviously, if you have to take 4, you'll take 4. But I think overall, Dallas is kind of the guy they've circled as far as the next big star.
Good problems for Florida State recruiting right now, especially at the wide receiver position. You would hope it would play out. Ron Dugans is a former Nole, a Nole great, a national champion, Florida State Seminole. Things seem to be working out for him. And also, when your head coach used to play a position, you want to recruit the position your head coach played and do it well. Looks like Florida State is doing gangbusters at receiver right now. Thanks to Michael Langston, senior recruiting analyst, for his time today. And remember, head over to warchant.com. The premium recruiting board run by Michael Langston has all the information on Florida State's 2025 class. Sign up today at warchant.com. $1 for your first month. Now is the time. Football camp, I'm talking about team camp, starts within 2 weeks. They're going to be playing in Dublin in 6 weeks. Now is the time to set up your account. warchant.com, $1 for your first month. Thanks, Michael. We'll talk to you next time right here on Warchant TV.